Hello gamers, in this video we're going to be taking a look at one of my favourite champions in the contest, Omega Red. I can honestly say that I can pinpoint the exact moment my Contest of Champions questing life went from being grindy and having to use revives and potions to being a much more relaxed experience, and this moment was when I pulled Omega Red from the 5-star crystal. So what makes Omega Red so powerful for questing? To start with, his base stats are very solid. At rank 565, he has a little over 2,400 attack and a 30,000 health pool, meaning that not only can he hit hard, he can take a lot of damage before he hits the deck. Crit rating and crit damage rating are pretty high for a mutant champion, and his block proficiency means that chip damage doesn't really do too much. When you take a look at his abilities, things start to get really interesting. I'll start out by saying that to be fully effective, Omega does need to have his awakened ability active, and it's my opinion that he's more than worthy of a generic gem if you happen to have one. Once awakened, you'll also need to invest as many Sig Stones as you have into him, but trust me, you won't regret this investment. At Sig level 200, once you place 10 spores on the opponent, you'll automatically start dealing 2,000 damage per second, as long as the opponent stays at 10 or more spores. Omega's medium attacks also have a 30% chance to be unblockable, and you'll see in the gameplay videos coming up just how easy it can be to get to 10 or more spores and how fast the opponents melt once you do. He's also completely immune to poison and takes 90% less damage from any bleed effect that you suffer, although if you run any points in the Coagulate Mastery, he actually receives no damage from bleeds. His medium attacks reduce any instant passive damage received, think Electro, to 0. When Omega is near to an opponent, he places 1 spore on them every half a second. When further away, they fall off every 0.1 seconds, so most of the time you need to be playing aggressively to keep your spore count up. One thing to bear in mind is that robots take spores 4 times slower and shed them faster, so he's definitely not the best counter to any robots that you might run into. When under the effects of a bleed, Omega emits his death field, and this is where the OP damage comes from. Each spore passively degenerates the opponent for 100 damage per second, and you'll be able to place 30 of them while his death field is active instead of the normal 10. And this can lead to an extra 3,000 damage per second once the death field is active. And if you add this to the 2,000 damage you're dealing from his awakened ability, you can melt some seriously chunky opponents in no time at all. Landing a heavy attack inflicts a degeneration debuff on the opponent that deals almost 400 damage per second per death spore for 7 seconds. But more importantly, whilst this degeneration debuff is active, any death spores you have on the opponent won't fall off no matter how far away you get. This is perfect for when you need to bait out a special and want to keep the damage up. Omega Special 1 removes all the death spores that you have on the opponent in exchange for some health back. It's not a huge amount of regen, 200 health per death spore, but if you've taken a pounding or are at 30 spores, this can really save your bacon. SP2 activates the death field for 10 seconds without you having to have a bleed on you, and this will be your normal rotation. Build to SP2, activate death field, and repeat, with as many heavy attacks as you can fit into the flow of the fight as possible. Special 3 also removes all your spores on the opponent, and this time it cashes them in for an Essence Steal, which gives you 350 regen, and also siphons 3.3% of their power to you per spore removed. This can be useful at 30 spores, as you can almost totally regen all your health, whilst totally draining your opponent's power. To help all that information fall into place, let's take a look at some gameplay, starting with everyone's favourite punching bag, Realm of Legends Winter Soldier. What I'm doing here is trying to keep my death spores at 10 or above, whilst weaving in that heavy attack to apply the degeneration wherever possible. You'll notice now that the death field has worn off, the base damage from those spores is still 975 damage per tick. I'm trying to work my way back up to an SP2, and once we get that heavy on and dodge his SP1, we can pop the SP2, and you'll see then that those 975 per tick damages start turning into 15, 16, 1700 damage per tick, and they'll stay that way whilst the spores are above 10 and the death field is active. Winter Soldier is already below 60% health after this SP2, the death field's back up, and again you're still getting sort of 2,000 damage per tick now, while those 30 spores are doing their work. Simply just a case now of keeping the spores up, dodging his SPs, and waiting for that health to evaporate. So here we are. Winter Soldier is now almost down. And you can see how easy a time that was using Omega Red. His spores tend to do all the heavy lifting for you. And all you've got to do is keep cycling your special 2 while staying close enough to the opponent that your death spores stay above 10. That was a 108 hit takedown of Realm of Legends Winter Soldier. Next up, I thought we'd jump into the uncollected version of the X-Communication Event Quest, just to show you how quick some of these enemies die when facing Omega Red. Civil Warrior, we're only 13 hits in, 1 heavy, and just look how quickly the rest of his health disappears. We're moving on to Blade. Same strategy. Get those death spores above 10 and look for an opportunity to land that heavy attack. You'll notice here, even whilst he's trying to regenerate in the corner, the death spores are overwhelming his regen rate, and 12 hits later, he's also down. Thor Ragnarok is only here briefly. We're straight up past 10 spores, 1 heavy attack, and you'll see here now how this degeneration just takes his entire health pool straight down. It's a similar story with Ghost. Ghost manages at least to land a couple of hits. But we're already above 10 spores, and you can see her health just absolutely melting away. 1 more heavy attack, and it's game over. Venom can sometimes be tricky with his aggressive fighting style. But with Omega Red, we're very, very quickly up to 10 death spores. And if you watch his health bar now, you can just see it absolutely disappears until he's out cold. I hope that this video has gone some way to explaining why I believe Omega Red is one of the best champions in the game. And I can honestly say that in my current lineup, he is by far the most fun champion to play. His insane damage and almost total survivability in almost any scenario makes him a core member of my questing team, and I think he should be in yours as well. Thank you for watching this video. Please hit the like button if it's helped you out, and don't forget to click subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on any updates from JRG Gaming. Have a good day.